Hello everyone, welcome to yet another session of the daily news analysis by SRIRAM'S IAS, where we take up the important articles featuring in the Hindu newspaper and break them down for our understanding from the examination point of view. We've been irregular with our sessions lately and we're really sorry for the inconvenience caused to you, but hopefully we'll be regular from now on. So let's start our today's discussion by taking the important articles which feature in the New Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper, and let's take up our first article for the day. The first article which appears in the newspaper reads, "Is it time for the gig economy?" Now this particular article appears in the newspaper where a particular phrase has been quite in news, which is known as moonlighting. Now many of you must have heard the mention of this phrase moonlighting, which has been in news for the past few weeks, and it is in this context that this article appears and discusses the concept of moonlighting as to what exactly is moonlighting, what are the discussions related to it that are happening, and what does the law of the land say about this concept of moonlighting. So let's get right into it. This particular topic becomes important for us from the examination point of view, where especially a question can be asked in the prelims examination regarding asking what is moonlighting. So let's get right into it. What exactly is moonlighting and why have we hearing this word lately in the news? So moonlighting is nothing but employees working for remuneration with entities other than their employers. So this has been the recent trend right now, where many people who have been employed, especially in the software companies, what they've been doing is that apart from working in their companies, they have also been indulging into other economic activities, in earning their income through other activities, and this exact concept is being called as moonlighting. Why is it being called moonlighting? Because of the fact that these people are working for these activities apart from their office hours. So one can say that they're working in the night or in the moonlight, and that is why the term moonlighting has been coined for this particular act. But is this practice of working side by side your principal income opportunity, is it a rare phenomenon? It has been happening for quite a long time, and many of the people, while working for some other job, have been indulging into other economic activities for a lot of period of time. But why this has come into the foray once again is because of the pandemic. When the work from home culture started, many people found extra time which was cut down by their travel time, and they started using this time, and therefore a lot of people started indulging into other economic activities. So therefore this concept came into the foray once again. So how have been the company reacting to it? The companies have seen large scale moonlighting incidences, where a Kotak security study found out that at least 60% of 400 employees surveyed said that they themselves had or knew someone who had engaged in moonlighting. So this study found out that majority employees were either thinking of themselves or they knew someone who had been indulging into such activities, and therefore many companies took a stern stance with these activities, where Wipro sacked 300 employees following the discovery that they were working for rival firms on the side, leading to conflict of interest. Obviously, if this happens where a particular employee who is working in Wipro starts to work in a rival company, which would lead to conflict of interest, and that is why it ended up sacking 300 employees. A similar stern warning was given by Infosys, where if any person of their company is indulging into economic activities with their rival companies, it warned that it will lead to termination for them. But there have been companies which have also encouraged this move, such as Swiggy. Swiggy has announced a moonlighting policy that allows employees to pursue their passion for economic interests alongside their full-time employment. So Swiggy has encouraged this move as long as they're working for organizations or they're taking opportunities which are not belonging to the rival firms. So these are some of the stances of the companies, where some companies have taken a stern stance against moonlighting and some companies have encouraged this move. So having understood what is moonlighting and why is it come into the picture, what does the law say on the moonlighting issue? So let's understand what are the provisions in the Indian law with respect to this concept of moonlighting, or what we can call as dual employment. So the provisions in the Indian law which deals with the concept of moonlighting or permitting dual employment broadly range in two aspects of the laws. First provision is mentioned in the section 60 of the Factories Act. This particular act deals with the labor laws especially pertaining to the factories, and it deals with restriction on double employment, stating that no adult worker shall be required or allowed to work in any factory on any day on which he has already been working in any other factory, save in such circumstances as may be prescribed. So this particular provision of the Factories Act clearly prohibits any worker working in a particular factory while he is working in that particular factory, and he is prohibited from working in any other factory. But the point to be noted in this particular provision is that this enactment is applicable only to employees working in factories. It is for only people who are working in factories, and therefore this law restricts themselves only to the factory workers. Second is the point of state enactments. Various labor laws, since labor is a concurrent subject and state has also presented its laws on it, state also can make its own laws on it. So there are certain state enactments which deal with this concept of dual employment, where in the case of Tamil Nadu, the respective act is known as the Tamil Nadu Shops and Establishment Act of 1947. This particular act deals with employment of persons working in offices, banks, shops, etc. But there is no provision in this act dealing with dual employment. So the laws of the states are particularly ambiguous with respect to prohibiting dual employment. So what we can see from here is that the laws in some places restrict dual employment and in some places are ambiguous to it and have no provisions for it. So here the author also comes in with a Supreme Court judgment. So in a particular judgment known as Glaxo Laboratories Limited versus Labour Court Meerut and others. In this particular case, the apex court dealt with the issue of dual employment or the employer of a company regulating the employee. So the court noted that it held that the employer has hardly any extraterritorial jurisdiction and he is not the custodian of general law and order situation, nor the guru or mentor of his workmen for their well-regulated cultural advancement. And if the power to regulate the behavior of the workmen outside the duty hours at any place wherever they may be was conferred upon the employer, contract of service may be reduced to contract of slavery. So what Supreme Court observed in this case was very simple, that if the employer starts regulating the life of the employee outside what he does of his work hours, that would amount to excessive regulation of the employee, and therefore the contract of service can be reduced to contract of slavery in that matter, which says that the Supreme Court took a liberal view in the favor of the employee, wherein if outside the work hours he or she wants to indulge in any other economic opportunity, he or she can do so. So this was the stance that Supreme Court took in this manner, which gives us a fair picture of what the law says with respect to this issue. So having understood this particular new concept that has arrived and what the law says in this manner, what has the government said in this regard? Now, government or the Minister of State for Skill Development and Entrepreneurship and Electronics and IT, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, said that employers should not to suppress employees who want to monetize, develop and demonstrate, but also urged employees not to violate their agreements with their employers. So this is the government stand on it, wherein it is encouraging the employees to take up economic opportunities other than their work, but it should not violate their agreements, which means that if they have signed an agreement which prohibits dual employment, they should adhere to it, and they should also, if the agreement talks about not working for the rival companies, they should also adhere to that particular aspect. And in the end, when we can think about as to what we should exactly make our point on this issue, the way forward is suggested in the article, where in today's world, every company ought to have a gig economy strategy, right? What we're seeing right now, where the employees are indulging into different activities, is a concept of gig economy. So in this world of gig economy, the author feels that every company should have a gig economy policy, because there are people thinking in this direction. And a famous author, Paul Estes, author of the book Gig Mindset, said, not having one is like missing the internet revolution of 1990 or the mobile revolution in 2020. So what this means is that by not taking charge of what the movement is going right now and being mindful of what is going up right now and not making policy according to it, what it will result into is that, again, when the internet revolution came in 1990 or mobile revolution came in 2010, and those companies which lost out on these opportunities by not cashing in on these movements, similar will be the case where this gig economy mindset is coming. So this was our discussion with respect to this article, and with this, let's move on to our next article for the day. The next article which appears in the newspaper reads, "Can read, talk, Vyom skills get a lift off with digital grey matter." Now, this particular article is an interesting article because it talks about the half-humanoid robot which is being designed by ISRO, which is known as Vyom. This is the image of Vyom, where she is first of all, it is a woman and a half-humanoid artificial intelligence-based robot. So, why is it being constructed or produced by ISRO, and what is its role? Let's understand it from the examination point of view. So Vyom is the name that is given to the half-humanoid woman which has no legs. This humanoid will simulate the human functions required for space before real astronauts take off. This particular Vyom is first going to accompany the manned mission that is known as Gaganyaan, wherein the first manned mission is going to go into space, wherein along with the astronauts who is going to accompany them is the Vyom, and it would act like how we have Alexa at our homes. So it would be an enhanced Alexa in their spaceships. So this particular Vyom helps in performing certain functions like switching panel operations. So it can perform certain functions that the astronauts want. The ECLSS or Environment Control and Life Support Systems, there can be certain switches of functions that the Vyom can handle, which can be very critical, and the astronauts can ask this Vyom to deal with these functions, and this is what it can operate on. Act as a companion and converse with the astronauts, recognize them, and also respond to their queries. All of these functions are what are kept in mind when we talk about the Vyom. And how are they making it happen? It is the concept of artificial intelligence that they're using and programming basic reading skills, writing skills, and speaking skills into the humanoid robot, and that is how it will be capable of doing so. With this, she can detect and give out warnings if environmental changes within the cabin get uncomfortable to astronauts and change the air condition. So this is what it is also capable of. And what the current article talks about is that this particular humanoid has been now put into test flights or test trials, and over the past few months, the IISU, or which is the arm of ISRO which has manufactured this half-humanoid robot, has successfully integrated it with a computer brain which enables it to read control panels aboard the unmanned test flights and communicate with the ISRO ground stations as well. So these are some of the functions that the Vyom is going to perform. Right? So this was a discussion today with respect to important articles for the day. We'll meet again tomorrow with the important articles that featured into the newspaper. Thank you. ठीक है